ESPN's coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series on ABC. Brought to you by Aflac. Ask about it at work. Ford, who invites you to tune into the Ford Championship Weekend on ABC and ESPN November 15th and 16th. And Sprint, featuring NASCAR Nextel Cup Series updates at sprint speed.
Completing caution number 6 on the day, Greg Biffle, who stayed on the racetrack, becomes our 5th different leader, picking up those bonus points. Right behind him, Jimmy and Jeff. Green flag waves. That's a 17 in the lap car of Matt Kenseth, being shown a lap down. He's the first car a lap down. Remember, they did hold Kyle Busch 2 laps in the pits. He's being shown now 3 laps down in 38th position.
He continues his bad chase races. Just one more problem.
The reason for the caution flag a moment ago, we had 3 different cars all have right front tire issues in the same end of the racetrack.
These brakes just get so hot, and they put all that heat into this wheel, and what happens, it transfers into the tire. The tire won't take but so much heat, and you know, finally it melts the bead and the air just goes flying out of the tire. Can you tell us a little more about this, Brewer?
Hey, Andy, I think I know the philosophy behind this. Folks, the fluid, it boils. It gives the driver an indication that, hey, things are getting real hot. When the fluid boils, that's one thing. But when they melt the O-ring out behind the piston right there, that's another thing. But as it transfers the heat from the rotor, what it does, it melts this beaded area right here, and this is going to be the end result right here. And this is a melted bead that we got off of Kurt Busch's car up here last race.
Tim, that looks exactly like the tires we saw being pulled off those cars. All that heat there in the bead. And by the way, Kyle Busch had complained that he was having brake issues about 25 laps ago.
Well, I tell you what, guys, those brake issues, these brake builders keep building better and better brakes, but the bigger they make the brakes, the hotter stuff gets. You see Jimmy Johnson passing Greg Biffle on the bottom, at least trying to. Looks like he's got it cleared right now. But boy, I tell you, they use those brakes hard. They get hot. And it does that. I mean, but to have 3 of them in the same corner was something I've never seen in my life. It's just a big coincidence right there.
Yeah, you're right, Rusty. The brakes used to be the limiting factor. They would get hot, boil the fluid before these tires would blow out. Now the brakes are so good that the tire has become the weak link.
It sure has, Ian. And you know, it seems like the more you use these brakes, because you got big brakes, it just creates a ton of heat. If they could ever fix that heat problem, then we'd have no problems. But now we just got all this heat, and they can't get rid of it.
Greg Biffle, sort of the sitting duck. His tires some 42 laps older than the guys that have gone by him now. And now Gordon and Johnson have gone by.
I wonder why this 16 car stayed out. Dave, can you tell us?
I sure can. I talked to Greg Irwin about that. He said, you know, our car was so much better out in front, or at least near the front of this pack, than it was back in the pack. Remember, they tried 2 tires a bit earlier, so he said, I wanted to get 4, or I wanted to stay out and get the track position right now, because the balance is halfway decent. A little bit tight for Greg, but he wanted the track position more than anything else.
He will be credited then for leading 9 laps. And the 7 car a moment ago, Robbie Gordon's abruptly slowed on the racetrack and headed back to the garage area.
Oh, we see Greg Biffle slide that left front and getting into turn 3. You don't want to do that very many laps. Put a flat spot on that tire and it'll cause you a lot of problems. He's going to have to yield to Jamie McMurray right here.
Yeah, Greg's got him some track position back, so there's no reason to race Jamie right there, who has fresh tires on. Just get himself locked in there and run some solid laps here, and they're going to run enough. Then he can find himself back in a good spot for the next pit sequence.
Yeah, he may have to dial a little bit of that front breakout, because he's definitely sliding the left front. If I was his crew chief, I'd be telling him just float it in the corner, back the corner up just a little bit. Greg just drives really hard down in there. You see that left front tire just slide. You know, wisely, he gets off that brake pedal and lets the car go up the racetrack, and that way he doesn't hurt the tire anymore.
And we talked about Greg Biffle, this not being one of his better racetracks, and I think that's exactly one of the reasons why he has a difficult time here. As you see Carl Edwards trying to make the pass to the inside of him now, is that this isn't a racetrack, and in particular with these newer cars, that you can really attack the corners. You get yourself in more of a problem than what you do in making time.
Greg Biffle had led 6 total laps at this racetrack in 11 previous visits. He's led 9 today. Denny Hamlin back in heavy traffic. Remember, he won here back in the spring. Had some tire strategy late in that race. Working his way underneath the 83 car. Brian Vickers. They are basically 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th there. There's Harvick behind Vickers.
Denny Hamlin's one of those drivers that has a lot of discipline as far as getting his car down in the corner and getting it turned in the middle and getting off the corner with good grip. Dave?
Yeah, 2 tires didn't work so great for them near the end of the run that last time. But remember, and I want to throw this out there because you guys were wondering about 2-tire strategy all day long, Doc. You mentioned it. At the end of this race, the final pit stop, they did take on just 2 right side tires and had just enough time to hold off Jeff Gordon at the end of that thing.
There's the 31 car of Jeff Burton. Started on the outside front row and grew up about 30 minutes from here in South Boston, Virginia. Won this race back in the fall of 1997. And I tell you, we told people yet last week in the garage area, probably one of the most popular drivers overall in the garage. His nickname is the Mayor. And I'm sure drivers in the chase would tell you if they couldn't win this championship, they'd like to see Jeff Burton win it.
He's definitely the spokesman down there in the garage area now because he just has a good feel for what where the sport is, and he has good advice for a lot of the younger guys.
Well, after last weekend's efforts at Charlotte pulling off the big win, we asked Jeff Burton about being a threat to win the title this year.
Well, I think it confirms to outside people that we're a threat. We have believed all along that we're a threat, as I think anyone in the chase would believe they're a threat. We believe that we're a strong team. We also, it's clear to us that we've got to be better than we were in the first 26 races if we're going to win a championship.
Certainly is, and he wanted to be off the radar screen, sort of under the radar, but not anymore after that performance, those last laps at Charlotte and the run here today, being very, very careful. He's certainly a contender. There's a 6 car, David Reagan. We mentioned he had to go to a backup car after contact. They had a wheel hop incident yesterday. Started at the back of the pack, and look where he's driven this car up in the top 20.
Been very patient. He's worked his way into the top 20.
A nice solid effort so far to this point. It would be easy that you could get yourself into a lot of trouble in trying to make those gains too quickly, but David's done a nice job. See right behind him Ryan Newman and Elliott Sadler there, and I talked to Elliott. He wasn't very optimistic about his chances, but he's been able to stay on the lead lap, and he's in the 20th spot right now.
Probably one of the most gallant efforts we saw back in the spring when Elliott Sadler had back pain and was able to drive it at home in the top 15. A little contact there between Reagan and Almirola, a couple of the young guns.
See Ryan Newman back here also in this battle. He was up running in the top 5 earlier as they stayed out on the racetrack, but it looked like he has a pretty good car. But it's interesting to watch as these guys get back in traffic just how much more difficult it is for them.
Back up front, Jimmy Johnson. We have had 7 lead changes among 5 different drivers, and Johnson has led 4 times for 71 laps, moving in on lap 200 of 500. You're watching ESPN on ABC.